Hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is A2D Wednesday nights. We'll be breaking down the Sixers Celtics game tonight, and we're talking heavy Sixers because it's a bye week. Let's go.
What's up, my family? Listen, first time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. This is A2D Wednesday nights. And A2D Wednesday nights is always brought to you by our good friend over at Royal Billiards, the premier game room store of the Delaware Valley. They're stocked with the very best in pool tables, accessories, shuffleboards, card tables, dart supplies, bars, bar stools. Turn any ordinary room into an extraordinary gaming experience. Oh, did we mention they got hot tubs too? They're located 515 Bethlehem Pike, Colmar, PA, or visit them on the web, royalbilliard.com. A2D Wednesday nights. Chrome, Pete, Ryan, I'm Tom. Everybody out there, welcome in. Welcome in. We're talking Sixers tonight. We'll give you a realistic expectations for the Sixers season. How far can they go? We'll talk about some of that fun stuff later on in the show. Who's exceeding expectations on this basketball team right now? And that doesn't just have to be a player. That can be coaches, etc. So let us know your opinion on that. And we'll talk about Tyrese Maxey as a legit second option, just like we were talking about before we came on the show, and how that got to where it is now. So we'll go back in the future a little bit. We'll hop in the time machine. Joel Embiid's MVP start. We'll get into it because I mean he is the best scorer that we've seen ever, if not in a long, long time in our lifetime. And we've been talking about that for years. How he's a point a minute guy. So nothing new there when it comes to Joel Embiid. We'll get into him as well. But our poll question, we always got to bring it to the fat suit. You know what I mean? We always got to circle back to a little fat suit. And it's brought to you by Carlino's Italian Market, the Carlino's Market. And they got the best of everything, right? Food, you can order food online. They got gourmet cheeses, meats, olive oils, gift baskets, and a lot more. The pasta that you see there is delicious. So go check out Carlino's Market. They're located in Westchester and Ardmore, PA. So you can find them online, Carlino's Market, on all your social media platforms. They're the best. Go give them a follow. They got a lot of followers still. They got to go check them out. Our poll for tonight. The Sixers are better constructed team without James Harden. Do you agree or disagree? So let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcast, we're there as well. Hit the like, subscribe, follow, and most importantly, join the conversation tonight. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know your excitement level for the Sixers. Let me know if you're officially back in or you're still out. Let us know and talk to us. All right? I hope everybody's back. If you're not back, I got to talk to you. I want to hear from you. So are the Sixers a better constructed team without James Harden? Agree or disagree? It's a great. I mean, I don't have to hesitate. And there's a lot of other reasons besides saying I'm not saying James Harden isn't a good basketball player and wasn't a great basketball player in his prime, right? What I'm saying is he's a pounded in the floor guy to me, right? He pounds, he slows everything down, and this offense to me runs better when it's got ball movement and you're getting to the basket, right? So when you look at that, and then what it allows, Joel's fine with whoever he plays with, but what it allows Tyrese to become, which we'll talk about his impact as a second option, what we've seen. Okay. And what it does to the bias. Okay. And that's how you make it better right there. You make it better, addition by subtraction, right? So you're getting, or subtraction by addition, however you want to call it, right? Because you're getting rid of something and you're not going to get what he is back, but you're going to get back what it is back. How your roster is deeper now. Right. And we talk about when you can bring a Covington and you can bring a Batum and you're going to be able to bring a Marcus Morris and you got a Paul Reed who's gotten better. Right. And you can throw Corky in there. You can throw Pat Bev in there, who's been really good and really palmsy like we expected. When you can roll out different things at people, now you can play to whatever type of system you're playing against. Now you have the tools to match systems, and we have a coach here who's going to match systems. We know he's going to try to outcoach you in those terms, right? He's not just going to try to outmotivate you like a doc, right? Etc. He's going to try to outcoach you. So when you got a guy who believes in outcoaching you scheme wise, and he has the roster for it, you get 6 in a row, right? Essentially, right? You get those things, and this offense, if anybody's watched it, has been in way more rhythm than I've seen in a long time. I mean, I used to see a lot of and we all did stagnant. You know, I think the ball movement's been good, and then you get a Kelly Oubre. I mean, you know, Kelly. I don't know what's Kelly's role with James here, right? I mean, that changes roles. Okay, so you have some unselfish guys in your starting rotation too, which is good, right? You have a guy like the Anthony Mellon, and you have a guy like Tobias, and Tobias is the biggest impact of all. Because like Maxey's the obvious impact. The bias is the one I've been talking about. How what does his game now do when he's a walking 18? What does it do now without a Harden? Well, now look at him, right? He's playing to his strengths, right? He's getting to the bucket, and you know he's a good defender. So I love what it brings with. I've always said that one. You know, that's the big one, and obviously Maxey's delicious. So and he's got the best runner in basketball. I mean, you know, and I love it. I love what I'm watching. I love a better defensive team, right? They held the Celtics under 31% from three, and you know under 40% from the field, right? I mean, those things matter, man. Those things matter to me. So I agree. What do you guys say? Everybody out there, see you chiming in, and are you back? That's all I got. After long reads and everything else, I'm done.
Feel a little winded there.
Bro, I got fillings done today. You know how that goes. Like, I'm good, but like you're a little sore. You know, I'm a chicken tender. That's all.
No, I don't know how you cannot agree to this poll. I feel like James Harden is the belt that you wear on Thanksgiving on this team, and you just stopped at 4 or 5 houses. You feeling a little woozy, you get back home, and somebody got some dessert or something. You know if you can do it, and then boom, you take the belt off, and it's like, all right, round 2, let's go. So then I think that's what he did that's what him leaving. That's what it did for Maxey, because now Maxey is truly the best guard on the team, and he can assert himself as that. But now you have the freedom and the flow for everything to move constantly. Like Oubre, I think it was a pass, and I think it was in the second quarter. I know before we went live, I know Brodo was talking about the and-1 that Maxey won when he hit it from the logo. I think a couple plays after that, Embiid had it on the wing, left side wing, near camera side wing, and he hit like this hard one-handed loop pass to Oubre. He had just came in the game. It was a corner 3. Like that type of move, it looks like the offense can flow. And at times last year, 6 months ago, we were like, where are we going to get a bucket? Like we look stagnant, right? Like you look, everybody's just kind of standing around, not literally hands on hits, but like not knowing where to go. Where I feel like we're now, was it 7-8 games into the season, roles are more defined. So we'll see how it carries on. We'll see how it plays out. But ultimately right now, from what you're seeing an offense to where people can grow. And then you're seeing Furkan do things that he's never done before. And I think the coaching literally in practice are actually literally getting coached. I mean, don't get me wrong. Doc won a championship that was 15 years ago, but Nick Nurse won his. And we have the most infamous shot in probably in 76ers history, 2019 Game 7 Kawhi with the loop. Like, who would have thought that dude on that sideline during that game would now be on your sideline coaching your reigning MVP and possibly the most improved player in the year, Maxey, so far, a rising superstar. So just from the looks of it on the offensive side, and you already know he can coach defense, right? Like, by golly, wow, like let's take talent, and just because they're talented, that's not give them a strategy because their talent will prevail. No, sometimes you gotta throw some strategy in there, right? So now Nick Nurse is going to give you that. He looks like he's aged a lot. I mean, I know it's only been 3 years, but God, the NBA is like stressful shit. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I was looking at the sidetrack. I was looking at Sirianni the other day. I was like, Sirianni looks like he's been in office like 8 years already. Like, it's been like he looks so much like coaching takes a toll on you, man. Like it just does, right? But I don't think Marcus Morris got any minutes since he's been traded.
Yeah, he played a little bit. I want to say last game, but it was just
Last game,
getting your feet wet type thing.
and
Real
that was
quick,
blowout
right
against
now.
Washington.
Real quick, right now the polls 100% agree, and we're early into it, right? Over on YouTube, and obviously you can vote everywhere else too. But that already, and I haven't seen a comment yet saying disagree, but that's fun. That's fun to know. We're not we're not delusional tonight. Everybody's here.
No.
Everybody's here, baby.
No, I mean, and I love the fact that we finally got somebody, one of the Morris twins from Philly in Philly. I mean, it's like one of those things. Like it's kind of it's a nod back to the process. Obviously, with Covington, but it's different. Like you need it. Not only did this move for what you're seeing right now, but like we said, like it gives you some type of ammunition to if you need to do something. When it comes January, February trade deadline, you can. Before, I'm surprised James Harden still even won it. I actually don't know what value he brings to any NBA team at all.
Nothing so far. They haven't won a game with him over in LA. They haven't won a game.
Did you guys see them chanting Daryl Morey at him in Brooklyn? He was shooting free throws in Brooklyn, and they were chanting Daryl Morey at him.
No, I didn't see. I mean, I saw Daryl Morey is making press rounds. I mean, before this trade, it's like he won't pop his head out of nowhere. Now he's doing press rounds. Like
he made
it's one of those things.
TV things while they're winning. He made sure
it's like with Ben, it was the offense free flow, but he shriveled up. Mm-hmm. So Harden was welcome because he wasn't Ben. But then it was like, okay, you love him because he's not who he was. He's not named the face before, but then you got your own bag of shit and you didn't change. And now we see your true colors, and it's even worse. Somewhat worse. It's worse, but it's in a different way. And it's like, I don't like any of this shit. Both of y'all ugly. Like one girl is just ugly than the other girl in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just now I don't have to deal with any of that. It's almost like it's welcome back because I didn't have to watch that. Even if we weren't doing what we're doing tonight, like beating the Celtics in the first part of the season, just to see more natural flowing offense and defense on the court, it's just a sight to behold because you have something to look for. Like I know Oubre's been around like 4 or 5 teams so far, but you haven't had
but bad ones, right?
Right, bad ones. Like he hasn't
played
had
1 year
Embiid.
in Golden State.
Yeah, the 1 year in Golden State, but like,
and even when he was on Phoenix wasn't very good.
That was the bad Suns. That was the pre-Chris Paul Suns. Charlotte, who's like barely a team, and the Wizards, who same thing.
I mean, Wizards are a train wreck, right? So, when you look at those teams, I mean, it's not you can't really be the role player and fit into your role on a team that's really bad, right? But on a team like this, you can sort of, does your role fit what we're trying to do here? And that's what we're talking about, like with ball movement and spacing and abilities to be a good slasher and cutter and the ability to take guys off the dribble, man, in this league. Like, I got to win off the dribble. So, and I got to be lengthy. And the biggest takeaway from tonight, too, in this team is they play great defense tonight. You know? In an NBA game, you held one of the better scoring teams in the league, the 103. I mean, take that for what it is.
I'll make it really. It's an agree, right? It's an agree. When the chat's even all saying agree, it's for a reason, right? Like I honestly, like, and I really don't think this poll was. I mean, listen, he kind of deserves it at this point, but I don't even think this poll. The whole purpose of it was for it to be like a bash James Harden show. I really, truly don't. It's more so about how good this Sixers team can be without the same redundant kind of style that they kind of tried to infuse into their teams the last handful of years. And listen, we all got excited about the Harden thing. Is it because we were getting rid of 25? Partially. Is it because of the potential that Harden and Embiid could have had not only in the regular season but in the postseason? Yeah, right. Were we excited about potentially and going out in the whole star hunting phase? Yeah. If we get a few months down the line and we have a big name that comes up, the Sixers are targeting X name, big name player. Well, there'll be excitement. Yes, right. That's part of the NBA. It's all about the stars. But at least in a small sample size, it's refreshing to see a team that has an MVP, a rising young star, a rejuvenated Tobias Harris, who went from being a glorified Marco Bellinelli last year to now he actually has a legitimate role and a bunch of really good role players that can fit in, whether it's the three-headed tandem of Batum, Covington, and Morris, to where one of the three, odds are they're going to have a good night, so you play more of that person. And then the other two, oh, you're not going to play as much. Tonight, it was road cut, right? Mostly because Batum's finger went that way, right, at the end of the second quarter. But they have been really good for you. Morris, to your point, B, it's like, hey, did he even get his feet wet yet? Kind of, but not really. There's going to be a spot for him, whether it's offensively or defensively, because they're all bigger guys, which can help against Boston, can help against Milwaukee, can help against those type of matchups. A player that I was actually excited to get in the trade, we haven't seen anything of, and that's KJ Martin, right? So it's like, oh, okay, he's somebody that we don't even need right now, right? It's almost like Jaden Springer's taking his minutes and Furkan's taking his minutes. I just think there's so many possibilities. There's so many matchups that you talked about, Tom, and it's just refreshing, right? Like there was a couple possessions back to back where I counted 7 passes in an offensive set. 7. Last year I was getting excited if they made 3 passes before jacking up a 3 with 2 seconds remaining on the shot clock. Like it's a different brand of basketball, whether that's without James Harden or just in comparison to the past couple years. And it just listen, and listen, we all know it's the NBA, it's the Sixers. There's going to be a stretch at some point where they lose, 4 out of 6 games, and they're going to come off of a loss to Charlotte, and we're going to be like, oh my God, this team's the exact same. Like, right? It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows the entire time. That's the NBA, right? And we know that as Sixers fans. But just so far, what we saw from this team pre-Harden trade, right? Just with the pieces they had, and before you kind of got the reservations here, it was refreshing, right? And we talked about it in our our little pre-show production meeting, right? To where Pete, you hit on it both before the show and on the show. They have flexibility if they need it, if they do, if that's this season, if that's in the off season with free agency, potential to have upwards of close to $80 million in cap space. You're not stuck anymore. 2 weeks ago, you were stuck. You were stuck having a point guard that didn't want to play basketball for us. You were stuck not knowing if that point guard comes back and stunts the growth of Maxey and completely, once again, Tobias goes back to the fourth fiddle at best. And now you have flexibility to see exactly what your role players are, exactly what your young star is. And if you need to, go out and help some things, whether that's a Donovan Mitchell or whether that's as small as a TJ McConnell as your backup point guard. You can do anything. And I think it works, and I trust the coach. Right now, until Darryl does something else foolish, I'm happy with what Darryl got in a really bad situation with Harden. So I'm extremely happy.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow suit. Obviously, agree. And typically we try to argue the other side. I don't know if there's an argument. And to what you guys said, it's not about bashing James Harden by any means. I didn't think Harden was. I mean, playoff wise, listen, we know what happened last year, but I didn't think Harden was. excuse me, as bad of a mix here, but it definitely slowed the offense, and you're kind of seeing how the floor is spaced out, right? And something I touched on last week, Tom, if you remember, was, the thing with Tobias is when Harden got here, his role was lost. Mm-hmm. And sliding him back. So last year, it was just kind of like, it was finding opportunities for Maxey, Embiid, obviously, and Harden. And then Tobias was kind of left with whatever was left over and trying to find his spots on the floor. Like I'm even earlier tonight, right? Even shots that I'm seeing him miss. First of all, he's taking really smart, really high percentage shots. He's really not taking any bad shots. There was one, I think it was either the second quarter, early in the third quarter, where they swing the ball out to him and he was on the baseline, does like a pump fake, does a little step over, gets a really high quality shot, misses the shot, but that's the kind of shots you want to see from him. Because that's where he's in his bread and butter. That's where he typically makes those shots, and he's making smarter, high percentage shots. Which again, you look at his field goal percentage; it's definitely up this year, and it's more quality than quantity, right? And then the thing is, I look at the whole totality of everything, right? You guys touched on the size, and we've talked about the playoff experience that they've gotten with some of these guys and some of the athleticism. But I even look at small things, right? Like Tyrese Maxey and his growth, right? Like Sam Cassell was a huge piece of that. And I think we all talked about that. You lose him this year. But Nick Nurse, who is one of the more creative offensive geniuses in this league. And so it's no wonder that he's got this team moving the ball, up and down the floor like they do. But then he goes and he gets an assistant like a Bobby Jackson, who I've had immense amounts of respect for, who has been the floor general for multiple playoff teams. And again, to me, that's a smart move to bring in to help continue with the progression of a Tyrese Maxey, a guy who's a winner and knows how to, lead on the floor and distribute the ball in the right situations and find your spots to score. And I love that, because I hated the only thing I hated about Doc going last year was that I knew you were going to lose a guy like a Sam Cassell. I felt like it was really important to the growth of the young guys on this team. But then when you go out and get a Bobby Jackson, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe we don't lose as much here, and you get a new perspective. I don't think it's an aberration that we've seen any of that. And obviously guys have stepped up, and we're going to get into guys who have stepped up. But even like a guy like Furkan, who you're seeing probably play the best basketball he's played since he's been a 76er. They're finding ways to put guys in positions to succeed. Kelly Oubre, who, his numbers have been fairly well throughout his career, but you bring him to a team that's kind of built to win now. I don't know if I would put them quite in the tier we had them to start last year yet, although they could be playing their way there. But you bring him into a team like this and subtracting James Harden off the floor and having Tobias, who's an unselfish player, be your number 3, that's going to open up opportunities for a guy like a Kelly Oubre to come on here. And I heard somebody talk like a week or two ago about Kelly Oubre basically betting on himself and taking this 1-year deal, with signing late to come to the Sixers and have an opportunity to build up his stock. And I think it's paying off in spades. And again, I look at this team. I saw somebody mentioned, might have been Dynasty, I'm not sure, but somebody mentioned they went out, they got size, they got shooters on the floor now. There's a chemistry there, guys. There's and Nick Nurse knows how to move the pieces around. And like you mentioned, Tom, he can game plan individually. And a lot of guys go out and it's kind of, we're going to run the same offense. I feel like Nick Nurse doesn't always run the same offense. He understands the strengths of the defense. And maybe tonight, one night it's Tyrese Maxey. Another night, it's always Embiid. But maybe one night it's Tyrese Maxey. Maybe another night the second guy up is Tobias Harris. Maybe Kelly Oubre's got the hot hand and he's finding ways to feed him the ball, coming up with plays in the huddle on timeouts and in between commercial breaks. It's just really smart the way that they're doing it. And I love seeing his enthusiasm on the side too. I think Nick Nurse has been a superstar pickup at this point. We're 7 games in, obviously. But, this is everything I could have expected and hoped for at this point from the head coach to put these guys in positions to succeed. And the one thing that we always talked about, right? Obviously, James Harden slowed it up a little bit because he was a little more of a traditional half-court set type of guy. And it does make me think, right? And I think we actually got the best of both worlds here when we've thought about what the offense could look like with Mike D'Antoni, right? But, what the defense would look like, Nick Nurse is basically giving us what I think we would get from a Mike D'Antoni offense in terms of these guys are moving up and down the floor with speed, ball movement, finding the open man and high percentage shots, but he's got them playing lockdown defense for the majority. Last 2 minutes, different story tonight, was a little bit tough, but I gotta say, as good as Embiid's been, as great as the progression has been from Tyrese Maxey and Tobias, none of this, in my opinion, happens without Nick Nurse being the guy who's at the helm, working with these guys and putting them in a position to succeed. So 100%, without question, I have to agree to this poll.
Yeah, this poll is like the easiest poll in A2D radio history right now, right? At least it looks like it, and I don't see it changing because, somebody said in the chat too, when you look at other teams, they're top heavy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to go take a peekaboo with Denver. I'm going to go take a peekaboo of not just homegrown guys. Joel's a homegrown guy. Tyrese. Well, their 2 big players are homegrown guys. Okay. And then what do? They have the right homegrown or different little pickups to add around those guys, and they're well coached, right? So when you have those combination of things, I think you make yourself better in a long series. You make yourself better overall during the regular season because you're deep. When you look at Milwaukee, man, I mean, you're taking a peek at it with the bench. It ain't something you love, and doesn't mean they can't win. You understand? Doesn't mean you can't win. You look at Boston, top heavy. Okay, they are top heavy. Doesn't mean you can't win, but if one of those guys disappears in a series, you're in trouble because you don't have the ability to do different things off your bench. And yes, in the postseason, do you shrink? You may, but if you got a great bench unit and that's your spark, or you have different matchups or different guys you can play, now you can match up the teams. And I think that's the advantage when you talk about playoff time and the advantage of regular season. I mean, look down the roster. Look how many guys they can play that actually are NBA guys that deserve NBA minutes. There's a lot of guys. That's not a bad thing, especially during a long NBA season, too. So I think that's like the opposite of Nick Nurse style. He's actually done a great job with minutes. You know, he's done a great job early on with those types of things. So I couldn't be more happier where they're at. I couldn't be more happier being deep. Like you brought up Donovan Mitchell because it's a name that's been, circling around. I want no parts. Like I'm good because like I'm giving up now what my bench is for it. I'm giving up picks for it. No, let me stay put, man. Because you don't know what those Clippers picks can be. You don't know what some of these other picks can be. Stay put. You got two stars. Right? If you got to add a little piece or two to go around them as the season goes on because things don't work. And I'm talking about like, not stars, like a good player. Fine. But you don't need to go all in for a Mitchell, for any of those types of names. That's egregious, right? It's egregious. That's stupid. Like the Golden State had a dynasty of homegrown triplets and not even. It was really two guys and great casts around them and great supporting casts around them. It was two stars and a great defender.
Well, they almost built it. I mean, I don't think it's an aberration either that Steve Kerr was the head coach because if you really look at how that team is, right?
It's like a Bulls roster.
Exactly, because you look at it, right? Steph was like the Jordan, Clay's like Pippen, and really with the way that Draymond plays, he was very, very similar to Dennis Rodman, right? And then you have the other complement. Now, I think they had better complementary pieces than what the Bulls teams had back in the day, but I digress. I mean, it was a different game back then. But you look at how that team was constructed as far as the core guys on that team, 100%, very similar to Bulls. And to your point, what you're talking about where top-heavy teams, right? You look at Boston. How much depth did Boston trade away to go out and get Drew Holiday, to go out to get Kristaps Porzingis? And I felt like you kind of saw that tonight. They could have used a Malcolm Brogdon, honestly, to come off of the bench today. There were other pieces too, right? And then same thing with Milwaukee, right? I mean, listen, when you have that kind of a team, it's going to take time to build chemistry. But I also look, and same thing with them. They gave up a lot of defense to go out and get more offense with Dame, and I think that's gonna be tough for them to overcome, and that's kind of where they're at, right? I think teams like we didn't have to. Our number 2 was acquired from within. It's just him progressing year by year. So we almost then in another way, in my opinion, almost acquired our number 2 by subtracting our number 2. Because he slides up and he's stepping up into that role and he's carrying that torch to where you were able to go and add other complementary pieces when other teams were trading away complementary pieces, trading away their defensive prowess to change the identity of their team. That's the thing with Milwaukee that I think is going to be the toughest thing to see what happens with them. Where is their defensive prowess? Drew Holiday was a leader for them and one of their best defensive players, and they traded him away.
You went from Drew Holiday to Dame, which, offensively that can work. There's no arguments there. But defensively, you go from one of the best on-guard defenders to one of the worst high-volume on-guard defenders.
It's not ideal.
The Middleton thing is still weird. They just look slow and they can't defend anybody. And then to your point, Tom, their depth wasn't great last year, and it's somehow gotten worse.
Yeah, and now you got to rely on those guys
because they're stars. But
you got to rely You got to rely on those guys, right? To all this conversation. Now you got to rely on all those guys to almost get you 70 a night.
Like, which is not sustainable.
Like your lead too. Same thing with Boston. Bill brought up how they combined for 27. Well, there you go. You know what I mean? There you go. You know, if those guys combine for 27, because you run up against a group that's lengthy, right? Because it's not about blocking shots. It's about that hand really getting in the face, right? That's what it's become, the NBA. You have the length to get in somebody's face, right? From the three-point line. And that's where the Sixers won the game tonight, because Boston didn't shoot well from three. I
keep seeing the last couple of days where people are bringing up like, oh, you know, Levine's perfect for this team, or OG's. It's like I'm like personally, like I'm good, right? Like you talked about, like more.
Bill, hold on, that would never happen. Like Joel not being in the 20s like rarely ever happens unless he's hurt. So, you know what I mean? So that's the facts of the matter. But I hear you, and you stop. Okay, don't start this shit tonight. All right, you came in, you were on the same page with us for a win. I love to have you. Okay, it was a great game. You did exactly what we thought you would do, which is find a way to make it a game, right? When we thought, oh, this is our game, right? Typical. It's a great rivalry. So hold the L. Go ahead.
Like if somebody said like, oh, we should, you know, sometime in January try and find like an improvement over DeAnthony Melton at the 2, like, okay, right? Because like DeAnthony, I think we would agree, right? Like there's a lot of positives. I would say that the weakest link so far in this short season is DeAnthony Melton. He still can't make a layup. He's kind of all over the place, right? Like, and maybe it's just a slow start, right? Like in a week, we could be saying how good he is, right?
Yeah, but then I see him defensively, though. I feel like he's constantly around the ball making plays. So I think it's like
defensively.
I feel like it's like, all right, you're giving up a little bit offensively, but when you have Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris kind of stepping up and filling that role, I love his effort. Like not everybody in the starting 5 has to score points. So that would be my kind of counter argument to that is I'm seeing the effort in other phases of the game from him to where he's making massive contributions on a weekend or a night in, night out.
He's a Mr. Do everything, like they say. I mean, he's a good on guard defender. He's lengthy, right? He'll get palmsy. He's not worried about getting shots. Yeah, and he'll have those games. He'll have those weeks
outside of 5 feet. He can't shoot.
He'll have those weeks though where he's really, really good offensively, and then he'll have where it's just like, okay, are you bringing us the defensive side of things? Mm-hmm. Like it's just a good roster right now. It's a really good roster, and I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Part of me singling out Melton just there too is I'm still triggered that the final 2 minutes. I truly believe this. Aside from them like Brown and Tatum waking up for a couple seconds, they started making that run because Nick Nurse decided, hey, we're gonna have DeAnthony Melton bring up the ball, right in the final 2 minutes. I was like, okay, like let's do that like when we're up 20, right? Let's not do that against the Celtics when they're still within 10, please.
Yeah, there were some things there just sloppy, almost, hey, here's the Sixers again. Right, here they are. And credit to them, they showed us something different. Right? Like they showed us something different. They were able to close out a game. It's never easy. It's a rival. They're a great team. We know how good they are. So, I mean, these are games you need to win. And it's a regular season, and we know what the end result, how much the end result matters here for the Sixers. So nobody's going to run down broad. We've been here before where we played really good basketball and we thought we were different. So, I'm also not going to run around and say, hey, this team's going to get over that hump. But I will say it looks like that this has the makings of a team that can make a run and that you better start talking about it a little bit in the Eastern Conference as the season goes on. You better watch yourself. That's all. I just want to be a watch yourself team. I like being the team that nobody talked about when they did their previews for this season and talk about the Eastern Conference. It's like you didn't have the reigning MVP. Okay? It's like you didn't have the reigning MVP. So I told you guys forever, it don't fucking matter who the hell's around him. Okay? If he's healthy in the playoffs, watch yourselves. That's all. It's never been. But if he is, watch yourself. That's all. And I think this roster is arguably the most balanced roster he's been around here. Outside of the year where he got hurt, when he had Ben, Bellinelli, Ilyasova, right? And that kind of roster that really complemented what he does too as a player. So everybody goddamn missed me nationally when you want to blow everybody else, all the big time stars. But we got arguably the best, if not the best player in the NBA right here. You know what I mean? He's right here. He's right goddamn here in this city. And because of his injuries in the playoffs, it's taken away from how great he is. Really, that fucking fadeaway is ridiculous. That's absurd. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. Wembanyama, hold this, Wemby. Hold that, because you ain't even doing that smooth. And then he's talking shit. Not yet. Not yet. When you're talking shit to Sam after it, I love that he went out my boy Sammy too. Yeah, I love that.
He was pissed. I mean, because we all saw it on the broadcast. We were like, "Who's he yelling at?" I thought he was yelling at a player. For a second, I'm like, "Is Marcus Smart on the bench over there? Is he still in Boston?" Right? Because we really don't see Embiid get fired up like that, except for it's like Al Horford doesn't even do that anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, but you do that against guys you like.
Yes,
because you look for like any competitive, advantage you can get. Right, so you're playing against a guy like a former coach. You want to take it to him.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't know if you guys or anyone at home heard. I saw it somewhere on Twitter. Maxey had like a thing on his podcast where he talked about a story a couple weeks ago when they went out like as a team, like bowling, and he's like going up against Rico Hines, and Rico Hines and him are going neck and neck in bowling, and he's literally trying to trip Rico Hines as he's going to bowl. Like he's throwing him just because he wants to win at bowling. So like that's it right there. Like it's competitiveness at the highest level, which is great, and which we wanted from our start.
Right. Question for you: what happened between Nick Nurse and the Raptors? Because I honestly don't know. You win the championship, and then 2 years later you're gone.
The players just didn't buy into the message. Personally, I think like who knows, right? Like we weren't in the building.
Well, Pep told you everything you need to know. There ain't no dogs up there.
Yeah, I think Scotty Barnes became a kind of a spoiled brat in year 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, he said it.
And Pep played for him up there, didn't he?
No, he didn't go.
No, but he's played him enough, and I respect what I trust what he says. Not like it's gospel, but when you talk about there's no dogs up there, well, dude, when they won because they had 2 big goddamn dogs. Yeah. You had Kawhi and Lowry. Let's not run from that, right? And then you add Siakam into it, who is a dog, right? Like he has doggish tendencies.
But I would love Siakam on this team.
Me too. But my point is like he's a good third guy, right? Great third guy. But now you make him the lead dog with no other doggies around you, and you got no dogs up there.
Now, the reason I bring that up is because we talked about how Nick prepped, and once again, I would reference Doc because he wanted, but Nick was doing this shit day in and day out against the East pretty much for somewhat looks the same. Like he was prepping against Greek. So he has all these memories that he can use for strategy wise against these teams. I've been sitting here thinking to myself, okay, where we're going to be at a couple months down the road. Who can we get? And I was like, name came to mind. I was like, nah, he's too old, but he's 34. But like Maxey's 6'2". I'm literally, as you guys were talking, I'm like, Maxey's 6'2". He has to play the point. I'm thinking to myself, there is a guard in Chicago that I think would suit this team better.
AC,
but it's not Levine. Give me the older guy. Give me the other guy. Give me USC Trojan. Give me Mr. Mid-Game. Give me DeMar DeRozan.
Did I not throw that name out there last week, Tom?
And I didn't even watch the show. Give me DeMar DeRozan as our 2.
That's the guy I said too. I'd love to have on this team.
And then you see where now once again he's 34. I mean
he's older.
He is older, but I'm just thinking like somebody you can probably get cheap. The other thing you can hope for, and it sounds crazy because he is balling right now. Toby's doing his damn thing through 8 games, 7 games, 8 games, whatever it is. But it's also an expiring contract. You want Toby to be as shiny and as new as possible. Just in case somebody is out there that you can kind of just reel him in a 3-team deal for he can go to another contender, maybe out west or some shit, and you can land back a young star. But once again, I think your point guard for the future is here, Maxey. We already know what Embiid who you have.
Well, the perfect situation if they ever did do that, which again, if they're on this kind of pace, they're not moving on, right, Pete? Obviously. Right, but if they're not playing to the level they think they can get to, the big one you would see is a team like Cleveland, right? Because a team like Cleveland would want to then get out of an old Mitchell contract and be able to be able to clear that money off their books, right? So that's a team you look at, but then again, you can't have 3 max players, right? So, to me, I'm good. I got my 2. So now I'm always going to be, what little pieces can I add to get better? Like good players. No, we're not talking about just like big time role play, like just guys just a bench piece, place here and there. I'm talking about like good players to go around guys, right? So that's the biggest thing. Like, okay, when Tobias contract's up, right? Obviously, if you don't win it all, probably not back. So what do you do? Who do you go out and use that money on of 2 or 3 players now, or 2 players, right, to make you even better in 2 spots? That's the interesting things down the road after this year. But they got a lot of money.
You drew a parallel to Denver, right? So if you look at our Jokic Embiid, Maxey Murray, the one piece we're missing, this is the one. If Oubre, I don't know how you say his last name. If this bitch could somehow turn into Michael Porter Jr. for us, what Denver, what he is for Denver, then you got it. Then you got it. Well, you know what I mean? But we have to kind of see that. And then he's betting on himself. So that's going to be
that was the comparison I wanted to make earlier too, right? And we got a little sidetracked.
Better than theirs though. Our third option.
And on Denver?
Who's Denver's third? I'm watching it right now.
Their third option, Tom?
Yeah, per se. Yeah.
Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, okay. So that's Tobias.
So I'd take Tobias over him.
I would too. Okay, but he does a lot of things for him. I get it. But yeah. And then 4 would be Oubre, Porter.
Yeah.
So okay. I mean, that's, and they got guys.
It's almost like a cancel out, right? Because if Porter's a little bit better, but I would look at Tobias fills the sheets a little bit more than typically what Aaron Gordon does. It's almost like a wash, right? So you're almost kind of 1 and 1A there. I was going to make that comparison earlier, Pete, where I look at the team, right, and we're saying, listen, nobody's cutting down any nets, nobody's greasing poles like somebody put in here. However, there's no reason that this team, a lot of people last year, nobody believed in what Denver was doing there, right?
No.
And I am seeing early season comparisons to the way that team is constructed, even down to the 12th man on the bench, to compared to how this 76ers team is constructed. And I'm not saying that means they're the Denver Nuggets, but what I'm saying is if they're really smart about how they mind their P's and Q's between now and the end of the year, that could be a team that can make a very serious run to an Eastern Conference final, and all bets are off at that point because of how deep they are, but how strong they are at the top and young they are at the top compared to a lot of teams. Because you have Jokic, who's a special kind of a player, and Embiid, who's a special kind of a player. I would put Maxey and Murray almost at the same level at this point. You're really looking almost. I said almost.
Yeah, I mean,
did you say Maxey and Murray? That's why I get him the slight edge, because Murray.
Well, I said almost.
Murray went off in NBA.
But that's also something by the end of the year we could be saying something totally different.
Yeah, you're right.
With the way that he started out this year, right? And I said almost. I would still give it to Murray. Murray's a special player too. But I look at this team and I just think to myself, like, I don't see why they need to move off the Tobias contract at this point, Pete. The way he's playing.
That's why I said only if it has to be defended. There can't be questions.
But if Tobias is playing at this level, right, and they're just winning games, sometimes doesn't matter who's out there. Listen, at the end of the year, regardless whether they ride him out or they don't, that money is going to be there to bring a player in. You don't need to, so at this point, if you got a chance to make a run this year, I don't mess with the chemistry of that team to where I'm taking my third best option off, who's putting up 18 to 20 every night, grabbing me 6 boards and shooting at a 55% clip from the field. Just not doing it. Doesn't matter if it gets me a Donovan Mitchell or not. If I got a chance to win this year, I'm not worrying about next year and throwing this year to the side. And that's the thing is, I also look at it this way, right? Maxey's going to probably get a max deal or close to it next year, right?
Is he eligible this offseason for an extension?
He's eligible in the offseason to get a max deal.
Max or an extension?
Is he not max eligible yet? I thought he was.
Well, anyone. De'Aaron Fox got max after his 4th year, so if he can get max after his 4th,
I don't know if they'll do that. I mean, he definitely deserves a pay raise.
But regardless, right? So my point is, he's going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
I don't see anybody giving Tobias the kind of contract that he got this year. Let's just be realistic.
No, not anymore. But he's still going to get paid.
But I'm saying even if
he's still in 30
entertaining-
million mode.
I
still
don't
30
even know
million
if he would
mode in
get
this
that
league.
much. Maybe
I think like
25.
There's a lot of money
22
on
or
the salary cap
26,
to go
yeah.
around. Is why guys like him get
Well,
30
yeah. I
million.
mean, like, listen, it goes up every year, I feel like, too. So, I mean, you guys say 25, I say 30.
Well, I
We're
think
right
the
in the same
cap
ballpark,
goes
right?
down. I think the cap's been going
Yeah,
Either
down.
way,
You're
guys
correct,
make
yeah.
money. So, stupid guys who can't play make money. So he's in the. That's fine. He's in the 25.
I'm
to 30
saying there
range.
could be an opportunity even to bring him back at a lesser clip if he
Agreed.
But-
fits and
But
the price is
25,
right.
30. Yeah, 25, 30. You know what I mean?
25 I would do. I wouldn't do 30. I wouldn't touch 30.
I mean, Harden got 30.
If we get past the
Right.
second round, I'll give him 30. How about that?
Yeah.
You got that.
I'll
That's
give
fair.
30.
That's
I'll
Get
fair.
to the Eastern Conference Finals. You got
Every
30.
round you get past, I'll give you another $5 million per. It's fine.
Well,
I gotta
Daryl, don't start
to
making
your
promises
point,
yet.
though, Crumb, to your point, though, I could see him easily being back in a contract that's good for him and good for us. So
Correct.
to that point, I think like that's a guy I'm not worried about. I don't
Mhm.
think he's chasing money. He's made a ton. So not counting anybody else's money, but he seems a guy who's smart with his money. He's a smart cat. So guys like that, I think at this point in their career, they're trying to win. Right. And if he feels like this gives him the best chance to win, then he'll stay and take 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Now I'm just kidding. Still a little NFL. But you know what I mean? He'll take that 20 to $30 million range contract to stay and try to win. Hey, we got you, brother.
He's
Thanks for
still
joining
young.
us.
Like he's been in the league a while, but Toby's only 31.
Yeah, but he's out of the max world, right? In my
Yeah.
opinion. You know, he's out of that world, especially
Yeah.
when you can only max 2 players. So
That's
what's
going to
the
be a
next-
big difference going forward too, Tom, is that's going to change the economics of the league. The fact that teams are only going to be allowed to max 2 players going forward. Before I think they were allowed to do 3.
Yep, 3. Yep.
So that's going to be a big difference maker because these guys aren't going to have those big paydays like they used to have. He 100% falls out of that when you're taking how many teams in the league are there? 32 teams.
32.
You're taking 32 max contracts out of
30.
out of the
30,
league.
right? 30.
Is it
Is it
30?
30?
Sorry.
Yeah.
30.
It's all good.
I'm
I
thinking
can keep
NHL. I'm
track
thinking
of this
NHL. I've
sometimes.
been hearing a lot of
In
NHL.
a couple years, it'll be
Gary Bettman.
32. It'll
Yeah,
couple
wow.
years,
30 teams. You're removing 30 max contracts from the league next year. Tobias Harris is 100% in that category.
No, it's the smartest move the NBA's done in a long time. To
Got
try
to do
to bring
something
back,
to
make
create a
teams more
competitive balance.
yeah, like you don't want players doing this too much. You want players you want to calm down with like the demands of being out,
Right.
and it sort of slows that down a little bit. So, because now there's not as much money for you to do it. Right now, you're really getting the special players are getting maxed, and the losers, right, are getting good money.
And it's on top of that, Tom, it's like by taking that extra max contract out, right? Now, since you can't do the super team shit no more, right? What is it going to do? You can't just say, here, you get the reason why we're in the position we are now, because Elton Brandon, Dale Morey was, you get a draft pick, you get a draft pick, you get a draft pick, you get a draft pick. Now those draft picks mean something because now, especially now what the Sixers are doing, you have the reigning MVP and you may have the second coming of the next head of the franchise who you drafted. So what teams outside of Denver, what team do you know outside of Denver who's won a championship? When's the last time a team did that, not name the Spurs with homegrown talent? I mean,
Golden
Milwaukee
State.
did it too. With
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Golden State.
Golden State, that's all
Golden State,
homegrown
yeah.
talent.
So, I mean,
but what does how hard is that to replicate where every other team tries to do that and they just say, F it, this shit's too hard. We're gonna take our picks. Let's go get established assets, right?
Oh yeah, that's what everybody was trying to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's what they, the Sixers are in that position. But the biggest part of this whole trade was the assets you got back in the draft picks. Like
Yep.
the draft picks were, you could just give me the draft picks for Harden. I would have said, okay, I'll deal
Yep.
with it. You know what I mean? Because at this point, you needed to replenish that, not only as having the capital to be able to go out and make a move you needed to, but the capital of being able to continue to get go players here, right? And if that's in 27, that's in whatever it is, right? You know what I mean? If that's in 2025, so whatever. You need it back to be able to then use it for whatever. So, I'm not worried about that far down the line, but you know what I mean? Like to be able to use that capital to be able to trade a second round pick for a player, right? And a player you're not using. Like that's the kind of stuff you're looking to try to do now. You know what I mean? And that's the easy stuff that gets you a good role player back.
Well, it goes back to this poll question too, related to Harden, and it's something that we talked about. I said before even like the trade happened, right? With all this Clippers thing, it's so clearly, and I, for the record, like you could say, oh, in a month this might not age well, whatever. They can go on a 9-game winning streak, the Clippers, and I will still believe this, right? Because it just is what it is. It's clear as day. The Clippers having interest in James Harden and doing this, it was not a basketball transaction. It was not what was best for the basketball team. It was what's best because they are one of 90 teams in LA that is also looking at a new stadium, and they were looking at the attraction. That's just what it is, right? Sure, if just so happens that James Harden stays healthy and actually figures out in the playoffs, Russell Westbrook figures it out in the playoffs, Kawhi and PG stay healthy, and also figure it out in the playoffs, then yeah, they'll be really good. They'll be a tough out in the second, third, maybe even fourth round. Absolutely. But if we just go by what they've always been, aside from 2019 Kawhi Leonard, where, of course, he was playing the Sixers and he wasn't a human, we know how this ends, right? It was never a basketball transaction. The fact that Ty Lue numerous times said, oh, it's a work in progress, we'll figure it out. Russell Westbrook numerous times, we're just going to figure it out. Well, this James Harden is an off-ball 2 guard when literally in his press conference, he's talking about he is a system. He needs to be on all ball. That didn't age well, did it, James? And we're 2 games in.
Well, that to me, that move for them was more of a.
Well, let's hold your thoughts on that. Hold your thoughts on the mood. Let's take a quick break because we have to do that. So let's do that now. Remember where you're going with this, and we'll come back on the other side and we'll continue that conversation. This is A2D Wednesday nights, only on A2D Radio. We'll continue Sixers talk right on the other side.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
Welcome back, everybody. A2D Wednesday nights. If you're just joining us, we're obviously talking Sixers, realistic expectations for the 23-24 Sixers we'll talk about in a little bit here. Who's exceeding expectations. We sort of got into all that. And now we're sort of just like circling the room just as a whole. We talked about Tyrese Maxey as a second option, Joel Embiid being Joel Embiid and being the MVP of the league than nobody even talks about. And our poll question was, the Sixers are a better constructed team without James Harden. Do you agree or disagree? You can let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That's where we're live. And we are also brought to you by Hats.com. Like you just heard from Irv, Hats.com. You can use code Philly for 15% off your next order over at Hats.com. And you can also get the hat Brian Dawkins wore when he got inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, which is always great. And you listen to Dog Talk here with Irv, Hollis, and Brian Dawkins, usually on Thursdays, but this Friday they'll be on Friday at 5, but they're usually on Thursdays, just to people looking at the same time now. All right. So our poll, I want to see what it is. Let me see where we're at here. Let me see. Let me get result talk.
So while you're doing that, let me follow up
Yeah.
with Ryan on that previous point he was making before we took our break. The move for the Clippers with Harden is less about the basketball move for this year, and it's more about next year. It's a double insurance policy. If Kawhi or Paul George gets hurt, you have that other superstar that's already kind of locked in to fill in. And the other thing is, I think they lose Kawhi next year, they lose Paul George next year. So to them, that is having a marketable star going beyond this year, because the expectation is they're probably going to sign him to, whether it's a max deal or close to, next year. He's going to end up being the guy going forward. So he may get that old James Harden in Houston that he wanted, that he basically talked himself out of a job with Houston this year, only with the Clippers next year, because the expectation is more than likely they're losing Kawhi and Paul George. So I think it's less about the basketball move, and clearly, because you made the point, right? We're 2 games in, and they're already talking about how do you manage him in Westbrook, because both guys need to have the ball in their hands. Then they're talking about, well, maybe you move Westbrook to the second unit, but how happy is he going to be about that? You move James Harden to the second unit. You just went out and got this guy who ran his mouth about being, put into these situations, and now you're telling him he's going to be the second option there. I mean, it doesn't, with all 4 of them in the lineup, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me unless one of them gets hurt this year. Then it makes sense. But it's more about next year and having another. It's an insurance policy for when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard walk.
I'm not going to sit here and act like that can't play, right? If that's healthy, that can play. So I'm not going to sit here and act like for a second. I mean, he's a loser, all right? That's well documented, okay? He's never been a winner, all right? And he cares about other stuff more than basketball, and that's fine. Okay, doesn't mean he doesn't love the game. Doesn't mean he doesn't work hard to be great at the game. It just means he's not a winner, okay? And that's the difference. Are you obsessed with it? Okay, winners are obsessed. They're not just in it for the glitz and the glamour and the other things. They're goddamn fucking obsessed. So that's where I draw the line with him. Now, the other guys, I'm not going to sit here, and I know those other doggies. If they are healthy, that team is a problem. If those 3 guys, if those 2 are healthy, that team is a problem, right? I know they lost some things, but that team is still really good. So I won't go there. I won't go there, but the West is loaded. So you also have that to factor into it too. But again, all this comes down to health, man. Same thing here. If Joel is healthy, we got a great opportunity to get out of second round. If Joel Embiid is not healthy, we run into the same problems the rest of the teams in the NBA run into when they're paying a lot of money for a healthy superstar and they do not have that healthy superstar at the level they expect.
Did anybody else hold their breath tonight in the second half where he got I think he was fronting Jalen, and Jalen poked the ball away, and he had a half a second before he dove for the ball. I'm like why? The ball's already out there, and then I think he tripped Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown landed on his back, on his side.
Porzingis, yeah, it was Porzingis.
Porzingis. It landed on his side, and Joel was down. I'm like, dude, come on. Don't get me wrong, basketball is strenuous, but you always hear that old adage saying, football, you'll never feel as good as you do the first day of training camp. After that, it's all downhill from there. And I feel Embiid, by game 10, he's never 100% ever again for the rest of the season. And I don't need that, sir. You know what I mean?
No, you need a healthy year. It's every year. Give us a healthy year, man. If you give us a healthy year, we're one of the toughest outs in the league because we have an unguardable big man.
Yep.
So that makes it tough. Who likes to turn the ball over? But that's what big guys do sometimes. We have an unguardable big man.
I think regardless of the injury history, right? I'm sure when Denver fans see Jokic fall to the floor to chase after a loose ball, and somebody lands on his ass or on his back, or looks like they might land on his shoulder, they're all holding their breath, because when you have a special talent, man, that's precious cargo. Anything will make you hold your breath, because your season hangs in the balance of that player. So, I mean, taking the injury history out or not, Joel's just a special guy. And big guys, you're right, to a degree, their bodies break down a little bit faster, a little bit easier. So I'm going to hold my breath regardless of what happens with Joe. I mean, I just you can't help yourself, right? We watch wrestling, right? You see a guy like a Daniel Bryan. Every time he does something, you're like, oh fuck, here we go, concussion.
Here we go.
Like you're just going to be like that with your special people in whatever industry that you're in. So that I mean, I hold my breath a little bit, but we're also going to overreact to a lot of things when it comes to a guy like him or a guy like Jokic as well.
I feel like sometimes his shit, he never seen a player be as graceful as a gazelle on certain plays, like a pure prime gazelle or a cheetah. Just not as fast, but can do moves, but then also look like he was just born and have the ugliest.
He could be a little clunky sometimes.
My God. Like he looks like a car who's backfiring sometimes. And that's what it looked like tonight. It's like a moment in his mind went off like, don't dive for the ball. And he's like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna dive. Like I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like it was a hesitation before he dove. And I'm like, what are you doing? But it's those type of falls where it's just like, oh my God, bro, like, come on, man. Like, you know how much you mean. We need to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, like how much pressure is that on you? You know what I mean?
I agree with you,
but weird when he falls. Like he never has learned.
It's not graceful at all.
No, and landing on an NBA court.
Falling either, and then now he's doing it again. It was like, oh, maybe this is like a Nick Nurse thing where it's like, Joe, don't fall, because he didn't fall like at all in the first like 4 games, and now it's just like, okay, we're back. He's going down.
Yeah, he's listen. That's always going to happen with him, right? He's never learned how to just like, and again, NBA courts are never easy to land on, but there's ways to like land soft, even though you're big, and he doesn't. So you just hope that when he does,
and
you pray. And yeah, Marcus, I would start watching the Sixers if I was you. If you're not, I would definitely dive in. NBA, I love basketball season, not only for the NBA, but I love the college basketball's back. So, it's a great time of the year. It gets dark, it sucks, but then you get something on every night. You want to watch a little basketball. The only thing better is MLB on every night to me, right? Personally, like MLB on every night, games to watch. I always enjoy that, but it's a great time of year.
I'll just say this on the Joel Embiid falling things. I'm going to jump out in a second. But to your point, Tom, like there is no easy way for him to fall, unfortunately. Like, has anyone seen a tree fall in the woods gently? No.
Let's land on some soft shit.
No, and it's a catch-22 too, right? Because you have your Jalen Hurts and you have these different guys, right? Do you want them to not play their? I mean, you want you don't want them running every play, but you also don't want to tell them, hey, don't play your style either, because that style is what makes them special, right? So, again, it's a catch-22 because you want to protect the asset, but at the same point, you don't want to handcuff the talent either.
No, there's truth to that for sure. You don't want to take away what makes you great ever.
Like his effort is what makes him great. When he chases a guy down from the back from like out of nowhere, like you said, Pete, like when he runs like a gazelle and he blocks a shot out of nowhere. Like, there's people that say, give up on the play. Don't worry. Come back to the other, get it back on the other side of the court. But that's what makes him a special player. That's what makes him elite over a lot of other guys. So,
because Jokic ain't doing that shit.
No, but that's what I want
blocking
from Joel.
shots from behind.
Have you ever seen Jokic run anybody down from behind?
No.
Like he's out of frame on a play.
One of the Morris brothers, he did.
I mean, that's the Morris brothers.
Oh, right after from behind.
Play. That was a
no. Joel blocks shots like nobody's business. I mean, I never seen nothing like it. Like he
appears out of thin air.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he came and got that. Like, so that makes your defense elite too.
Can we get Joel with Meany at the 2300 arena that he could teach him how to take a bump?
Oh God, let's go for it. We got it,
gentlemen. I'm going to jump out of here. Always a pleasure. Great win.
Great win. See you, Ryan.
Later.
See you, brother.
But yeah, Kawhi will be out if that doesn't go. Somebody will be out. So that is I'm not telling you it's a great built team, Cal, or anything like that. I'm just telling you they could be really good. They could be a really tough out if they're healthy. That's all.
Especially when the benches shrink.
Yeah, I don't believe in that team. I don't believe in them per se because of some of their guys, but they could be good if they once they start playing together. That also matters here. So, but either way, Sixers are playing great basketball. And again, it's so early, but you could come out of the gates and be 500. You could come out of the gates and be under 500. So there's other ways to look at how you start. And I look at how I start with I look at like my main pieces. How do they look together? And they look tremendous together. So that's a great start to it, right? And that's just the beginning of it. And I think when more guys obviously get comfortable in their rotations, this team could be even better. So, I think their expectations are as simple as I've always said. If Joel's healthy, they're going somewhere. If he's not, he's not. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Like if Maxey and their guys are all healthy, they are a goddamn issue. They're an issue for people. So we'll see if that happens. So that's my expectation. They have every chance to go to an Eastern Conference final. Like 4 or 5 teams have to in the Eastern Conference, right? So of course they have a chance to. But that's all depending on the health of the team, which you're not as worried about is the health of your superstar. Your superstars have to be healthy for a 7-game series because we talked about benches shrinking, right? I don't expect to win a series with Paul Reed as my 5. And that's not a shot at Paul, right? I really love him as a backup. But that's like getting the backup QB in. You might rally for a game and win it, but you ain't winning a damn series starting from nothing. So his impact is that gigantic. And I can't even have a partially torn something that he's playing through. Like, you can't have any of it, guys. You can't have any of it. Nope. It's got to be the healthiest version of him. And if he's 90%, that's fine. Because 90% is giving you 30. So, you just have to be you have to have the ability to be able to play his game, even if it's not, can't be like 75, right? So you got to be like 85 or above. And yes, Maxey's floater is a killer too. It's nasty. Yeah.
And I also think, like, when we're talking about, and it sounds so crazy, we're talking about this 7 games in, but we all know what the bar is for this team. We all know where we need them to be come April, come May, right? And now I think with the subtraction of Harden and what you have and what we've seen on the court in this 7 games thus far in the small sample sizes, we promote. You can't just take one thing away from us now to try to slow us down. You know what I mean? So now we promote more problems on offense and also from a defensive perspective as well, because we have, like somebody said way earlier in the show, is we have wing depth. So we have more wings that are athletic on both sides of the ball to throw at you in those matchups. You know what I mean? So now I think from a strategy sense, we're also tougher. If we keep this same style of basketball going, we're a tougher matchup. We're going to be a tougher out. And that also helps from the standpoint of and matchups, because realistically, the last couple of years, we drew the short straw every fucking time in the second round. Every time. Like, and you if we play this team versus this team, different story, right? But that's such is life, such is basketball. You can't change that. So where this year, if that happens again, the adaptability and flexibility, I think, is better. And the crazy thing is, it can be improved. Like Tom said, at the trade deadline, you don't have to be buyers of grade A beef. You can get prime. Like, you can get prime. You don't have to go get Wagyu. Mm-hmm. You can give me some Angus. Give me some Angus. You feel what I'm saying? Which is good, but it also accentuates what we have.
Yeah, because you don't need to take the ball out of hands, right? That's the biggest key here, right? Because like I always say, listen, you only have so many basketballs to go around, so you got to be always cautious of that situation for a lot of reasons. And one's winning. Doesn't mean you don't want guys who can't score. Right. Of course not. Like, you need the Ubres of the world, you need the Tobias of the world, but your offense got to go through your 2 best players, and the other guys fit into that scheme, that system you're running, right? So, to me, I don't want another superstar. Mm-hmm. I want another damn good basketball player, right? That's what I'm looking for when you build off of those 2 guys. And right now, you're getting a damn good basketball player in Tobias Harris, and you're getting a damn good basketball player in Kelly Oubre right now. And then there's other pieces, like you talk about wing depth, when you talk about Cobb and and Batum and the ability to run Marcus Morris, and then you have the wing depth of a guy like not just a Pat Bev who gets up after you, right, and is always hand in the face guy, and you have some of those pieces that are really important to build out a really damn good roster. I mean, tonight bench is shortened, right?
Yep.
Obvious, it's a big game, so if you factor that in, I mean, you're running Batum, Cove, Paul Reed, Beverly, and Corky for 3 minutes, right? So that doesn't count. But then you mix Morris in somewhere into that mix, right? Depending on the matchup you want.
KJ Martin too, somewhere he got.
So I mean, that's your short, and that's what went short tonight for you. And you got really good, efficient production from your bench, efficiency wise, with a 2 for 3, a 2 for 4, a 4 for 5, 1 for 2. Corky was 0 for 2 at the end. We're in his 3 minutes, but whatever. You know what I mean? You got rebounding, so you got some of that depth to go along with what you have in your starting lineup. So I mean, who's the other athletic wings? I mean, I wouldn't call Cove like unathletic. I wouldn't call Batum unathletic. They're bigger. They they're more lengthy, right? Tobias is a guy who plays great defense. So it's not like they don't have Melton. You got to look at wings as like not just a small forward. Like a wing is your guards too. What your guards do on the
shooting guard is a wing.
It's perimeter defense. You're gonna have times Joel's on the perimeter. You're gonna have times Paul Reed's on the perimeter. So, to me, it's just about having guys that are willing to play defense out there and that are lengthy. And if they're not lengthy, they're up in your jock strap. I mean, that's what you're looking about for perimeter defenders. Something that we've lacked around here, man. Let's call it how it is. Listen, at this point of their careers, PJ gets after it. I get it, but I'd rather have a Cove and a Batum over a PJ because I get offense out of it. I get some sort of offense out of those two guys, and they're active, right? You're looking for activity. That's all. Are you active tonight? And Marcus is going to be active, right? You would expect when he gets comfortable and whatever the situation is, right? It starts really getting some minutes. What's he bring? Because he's a guy who can score a little bit. He's physical. So I mean, I can't say enough. I'm not trying to crown a roster. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it's damn good. It's really good. That's all.
To me, Marcus Morris brings you exactly what PJ. I never saw what PJ like this outstanding amount of. I mean, he was good defensively, but I never.
He was 32. When he was 32, yeah, right.
Like PJ's never been a tremendous player though. Like he's he puts a lot of effort in and he can give you some tough games defensively, but he's never been a guy that I don't think he's ever averaged double digits. For the contract that he got, I mean, getting rid of that deal was huge in my opinion.
Guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah, you could get the same from essentially what you get from a guy like a Marcus Morris. I didn't really see what the huge appeal was bringing him in. And yeah, we saw some effort games in the playoffs, but again, overall, I've always felt like he's a little bit of an overhyped guy. I thought his contract was overinflated for what you actually get back in terms of your return. It never really did much for me.
PJ is the guy who can shoot a little, not the most athletic, but is fundamentally sound and will get up in you. He's a taller, bigger Pat Bev. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Pat Bev also didn't see money like PJ saw. So that goes to your point of the contract doesn't match what you got out of it. And then also him and Harden are like this. So if Harden
I think that's a huge reason as to why they got rid of him.
I'll be right back.
Oh, you're good. I think that was a huge reason as to why they ended up getting rid of him as well. They had to make that move in order to kind of keep the peace. And I think that obviously PJ Tucker made his displeasure known ahead of time and showed where his allegiance was. And I think you have to worry about the chemistry of the team and regardless of what he brings to you playoff wise, or brings to you in toughness wise, You need a guy who's going to be bought in with the front office and be bought in with the head coach and the rest of the roster. And can't just be relying on one guy. And I think that PJ made it very well known where his allegiance was going to lie. And they moved him accordingly, and I thought it was a really strong move. I'm happy. What I'm happy about is I see a guy like Robert Covington who comes back, and he's kind of floated around since he was here, and he was here for the early parts of the process. And for him to come back here and now kind of have an opportunity to come back and be a contributor to a team that can actually make a really strong run, not just be a first round tough out like they were when he was first here. With the teams that were built around a young Embiid and obviously Dario and guys like that. I think that's something that can rejuvenate him a little bit. And it looks like game by game, he's a guy who's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with being back in Philadelphia. It was nice to see him get his first 3-pointer tonight. And, surprising to me that he's a guy who is the number 2 guy in the 3-point list made all time behind Allen Iverson for the 76ers. And I think he's a guy that's a little bit understated, an elder statesman that can come in here and as he gets reacclimated and more comfortable, could be another huge asset. So, you lose, we talked about it a lot. You lose a guy like a James Harden, and he's an uber talented player, and nobody can take that away from him. But it's addition by subtraction. And obviously you're seeing the pieces around him flourish. Talked about Kelly Oubre and how he's being given an opportunity, and he's doing it on a night in and night basis. Furkan's really stepped up. Furkan has essentially been almost like the backup point guard for the first 6 or 7 games of this season. And I don't think it's an aberration that this team, since the Harden deal, they lose opening night, they come out, and since that Harden deal has moved on from PJ Tucker, the team has improved. The team has won 6 games in a row. They look like a re-energized team on the court. And it's really been something impressive to watch. And I saw Coach Marcus say, is it time to get back on the Sixers bandwagon? I heard the guys on agree to disagree on Sunday night. Get in and have a conversation. Are we welcoming everybody back to the bandwagon? You're damn right we are. Get back on, because this is a great time to be a Sixers fan. They gave us a little bit of the it's like the second scare this week we got. Similar to, Sunday night we have the Cowboys making their drive down in the last minute of the game. And past history would tell you, here we go again. Obviously, you think the Eagles are going to cough it up, but they make the plays at the end. And you almost saw, basketball's version tonight with the 76ers. You play the Boston Celtics, and that's a team that has historically managed to either wipe you off the floor or find ways to play tough basketball in that last quarter to almost where they climb back in bit by bit. And then you get into that last minute and there's a total breakdown. And there was definitely a breakdown, but you got plays when you needed to defensively. You get the block down the other end in that final 10 seconds. And the Sixers managed to kind of resurrect their demons as. So I feel like we resurrected 2 demons this week, guys, with the Boston Celtics, with the Cowboys. Both games really taking us down to the wire, really having us clench our buttholes a little bit. But at the end of the day, we kind of came out of it. And I don't know if you guys were listening, but, I was talking about Robert Covington, who I think is a guy who I was not a big Rocco guy before, right? I just felt like it was an overvalue on him.
Yeah.
This point in his career, though, he's been around. He was here at the beginning of the process, so he knows what it was about. And now to come back here and have a chance to truly contribute as a seasoned veteran at this point. I mentioned earlier how I enjoyed seeing him knock down his first 3. Mm-hmm. Totally didn't realize until they mentioned the other day in the broadcast that he's number 2 behind Iverson all time in the organization of 3-pointers.
I did not know that.
Yeah, crazy to think about that. But really great to see him kind of contribute a little bit offensively. He looks like he's back here and enjoying his time being here. And now
real quick, it's just full circle, right? It's full circle. And there's a quote going out that, like, that Cowboys, what happened at the end there is almost like us turning over a new leaf. because that's a game you're like, no way, you're giving this game away. And then
Right.
that's a game you end up winning. The way it all broke down, you're like, oh, wow, then we ended up winning it. You know, so like that changes sort of like the usual Philly thing where, hey, it's a Philly thing where a guy's going to hit a 65-yarder and beat us, right? Or, you know, little things like that. Or we're going to have a pass interference that gets them to the 50 and now they're down to the 5, right? And we're going to cough this game up. Or we're playing the Celtics tonight and we're up and it feels like this is night, it's a wrap. And
when Jaylen Brown hit that 3-pointer, I was like, oh, man. I mean, I think that cut it to 3. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. Like, plenty of time left on the clock. That was one of those moments, right, Tom? It's like it's like when they make that play and they get down to the 5-yard line, the Cowboys the other night, and then they start to get the, you know, they have the delay of game, they had the sack, they had the offside that kind of pushed them back a little bit. But until that point, you're like, here we go again. But then you make the plays. You get, you know, you have obviously Brandon Graham come around the edge just enough to make force Dak to step out of bounds. You get that sack that pushes them all the way back, and they end up playing. I think they were on like the 25, 30-yard line.
Yeah.
That was what we saw tonight. That to me was like that block. That block that you saw down the other end in that last 10 or 15 seconds was like the sack that we ended up getting, where you needed a huge defensive play, and the defensive prowess of this team stepped up, where in the past that does not happen here.
Yeah, I just want to say that's like that's the team that is our arch nemesis, right? They always seem to beat us. So regular season, postseason, and we win games, but they always seem to get the better of us, right? You know, in the larger scale. So tonight's an important milestone for this group, right? This group of players. Every year is different, right? And it's a new staff. And this game was don't nobody kid themselves how important, you know, a game 7 games into the season is for a basketball team, right? And then you get your playing tournament coming up, and now you see what the NBA really wants out of it is more competitiveness early on in the year, right? That's what they're trying to gain out of it. And, you know, we'll get ours Friday night, our first game of that play-in versus the Pistons. So, you know, we'll see how that looks in more of that competitive environment, right? I'm excited to see how that just looks because that's a stepping stone for what this team may be come postseason. So, you know, there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to with this season. And again, guys stay healthy. And, you know, I think Nick and this staff, you know, I knew when we hired it what Rico Hines is, you know, and how much players believe in his player development.
Right.
So there's a lot of great things that, you know, we can look for in the future with this staff and some of these players. So it's a good time right now.
Could you imagine just saying you get like a guy like Covington that kind of comes back full circle, and then that's the time you get over the hump in that second round and get to the Eastern Conference Finals? It would just be so poetic for something like that to happen.
Yeah, it would. Yeah,
I mean, this is probably a little raw, but honestly, and this doesn't apply to Chrome because we're talking about the one sport he's not a fan of Philly. But look at it last year. We had no Reese this year. We did not get back to the World Series. We went out, had no Reese, went out and spent another $300 cool million on Trey Turner. When you always go get the fancy shiny car, does not always mean you're going to get that success. So yes, it would be very Philly-esque for Covington to come back. A sign of the process at its inception.
Pre-Embiid.
And then now this is the one where you get maybe I always say, listen, I know what it's like to be in a parade when it's cold as shit. I had one in October. I had one in February. Can I be in the parade when it's hot?
I know. Please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
for real. And
this
listen,
is
when
the
you have
best
the best, well, at the end of the day, when you're the best player in basketball, if not the second best, however you want to consider it, wherever you want to rank it that day, and I'm not going to sit here and argue with Nuggets fans. I get it. Your guy's a winner. Shit too. Right. You know, they're different, but they're similar. So, you know, the fact that, you know, you got the second best or first best, whoever he is, you know, that gives you a shot every year.
Yep.
In this sport, it does. You know, other sports, not necessarily, right? You know, and speaking of Reese, he's not going to be back because Harper's going the first, and that's probably the smart long-term, the business decision for not only the Phillies, but for him. But, you know, now you got to bring back a guy like Noah. You know,
Yeah.
you need to bring back the durability. And listen, they'll be creative, dude. They're all in, so I'm not worried about it. You're gonna lose guys, man.
Right.
It's part of the gig here. So you know, there's enough leadership on this team that I don't think Reese Hoskins is the exact reason we didn't get back per se, right? It didn't help. It would have been nice to have him in this lineup for sure, but not having him now, you expect there to be something to replace the production you would hope when you're all in the win. So we'll see how it plays out. But the Sixers, man, when you got the best player and you're in a sport like this small, like in hockey, like if you got the best player in hockey, when there's 5 guys on the ice, well, you got a chance to win a lot of games.
Yep.
You got a chance of it. Now you need other pieces too, but you always go into a season saying, yo, it's our year. The only reason we go in saying it's not our year is because our best player is never healthy for that time of year. So, how do they work that out this year? How do you can't even load managing because like these types of injuries are always like freak shit. He lands weird. Somebody hits him in the face. Right.
Yeah, the orbital bone was the worst.
But the whole like full circle is a Cub. Is it Nick Nurse who, 25 pounds beat us? Is trading Harden to the team Kawhi's on? There's a lot of things you can look at, to say, hey, you know what? This is how this shit ends. This is how this little curse of second round exits ends. This is how this team gets to an NBA Finals, right? Which how great would that be for this fan base that loves its basketball to just be the center of attention for hopefully, well, you don't necessarily play 7, but for 7 and a win, right? Or just to be back to the finals.
Well,
about a fan base that deserves it. Sorry, Kerm. That's all. A fan base.
I just say, you're talking about load management, right? I mean, I think it's noteworthy that Joel has not missed a game yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a couple of them games he hasn't had to play a fourth quarter because they played so well, which
and
may be contributing
that's important
to
your season too, right? Of not just playing the stupid minutes. Like Friday against Detroit, let's get after their asses, right? Let's not. And that's going to be another telling sign early on the team. Is there a letdown against Detroit? Now it's a playing game or, whatever it is.
Do you play up or play down the teams? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an in-season tournament game. So you hope, all right, do you get a little bit more out of it now? It's a back-to-back. No,
I don't know that I understand this in-season tournament. So what's the deal with this?
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest concept of it either.
I mean, I sort of do. So you have group play. Okay, and I think the winners of group play move on to Vegas, and then there's like 2 wild cards. I don't know from each group or what, but there's 2 overall maybe wild cards that make it to. So you gotta win your group or be one of the 2 wild cards. So there's 6 groups. There's 6 groups.
And I think there's a trophy that's awarded and there's a cash bonus, right?
Yeah, $5,000 cash bonus for each or $500,000 for each player. They're really trying to get players to play here. You know what I mean? I see what they're doing. So we're in our group is East A, and we have the Cavs, the Hawks, the Pacers, and the Pistons. All right. So let's see what happens.
Should be able to come out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now does that advance to Vegas, or is there more? You might have to come out of like. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a little bit more.
So is it almost like what they doing like World Cup, or like you have pool play, then 2 teams from each pool go and advance to the next stage, and then it's kind of like. And how long is this tournament? Like, what's the duration of this tournament?
November 3rd through the 28th. 8 teams will advance to the knockout rounds. The team with the best standing in group play games in each of the 6 groups, and 1 wild card team from each conference. So 2, right? The wild card will be the team from each conference with the best record in group play games that finish second in group. Okay, we got that part of it, right?
Now, these games do or don't count towards your regular season record?
They have to, because how you get 82, right? You know what I mean?
So they're full-length, full 48-minute games.
Yeah, nothing changes here with that. Nope.
So based off of
the only thing I saw is they're doing different-looking courts and different uniforms.
Yeah, so if you look at the Sixers grouping, right, they got a real good chance to get out of it,
mm-hmm.
obviously. and then then you move on, right? And then it gets then it gets deeper. So different.
Yeah, I'm just curious how they're doing it.
You play 4 designated group play games, 1 game against each opponent in its group, with 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. Okay. So we play all those teams twice. So we play Detroit twice, Pacers twice, Hawks and Cavs all twice.
Yeah, I was just curious on how they do it's like a fluid schedule at that point, because you don't know who's going to be knocked in, who's going to be in, who's going to be knocked out, and how that scheduling goes. That's kind of where I was confused on do the games count, or is this like a predetermined tournament where they're side games? I guess that's trying to get them to play more games and not sit games out, and that makes sense.
Yep.
And basically incentivizing every player with $500,000 a player.
Yeah, nobody's going to be against $500K. It's always good, walking around money. So,
well, especially when you're a player who may only be making $750 or $900K.
Right.
Exactly. It helps everybody. It ain't bad for anybody. So, guys are gonna play, right? And that's what you're looking for, because usually you really get a ramp up, and you really start looking at your team after Christmas, right? We always talk about that. Come the new year, what do you look like, right? This just gives you an early look at some teams, right? And always it counts to your 82, because go win games, right?
Yeah.
That's why I look for the Sixers, be a top 3 seed, be the number 1 seed, make everything come through Philly, right? Or however you want to go, right? Just be somewhere where you control it. And there's nothing against winning enough games to be a 1 seed, and people are not feeling good about that going in, right? I'm not opposed to that shit. You know what I mean? Some people are opposed to I just got to be. Yeah, I mean, if you're top 4, you're in a good spot, right? But shit, man, I want to be the best. I want to be the best of the regular season, right? I want to control you come through here. What up, Slayer? He said $5 super chat. We appreciate you, brother. I think it's more of a March Madness style, boys, and it counts towards the regular season. Only a championship round will be game 83 for 2 teams who are in it. Okay. All right. So you get an extra game in the year, but that's worth $500K, right? Because the TV revenue they get off of that 1 extra game. It's that's 101 for the NBA. So, yeah. I mean, nobody does a better job of making money than the NBA. I've always stood by that one. So,
yeah, and I appreciate. I saw Gary Bettman on McAfee's show last week, and talking about the competitive balance, and the one thing the NHL has done really well was, despite being out for twice in a decade, including 1 full season, they did that and managed to create a competitive balance. And the one thing that he gave credit for is the NBA constantly tries to reinvent itself to create and incentivize players to play and create a competitive balance. So the NBA is creative. Some things work, some things don't. Some things they throw against the wall and it slides off, and some things sticks. So I mean, I like the idea of it, especially now that I understand it a lot more. I think it's a cool idea, and yeah, I mean, nothing is to me more brutal with the NBA than the load management, and I understand it to a point. But when you're watching games and you're a fan who buys a ticket and you're
you load
expecting
manage
to go see,
by minutes. Sorry, you don't load management by games. The only way you get speed of games is playing games, right? So if you're load managing a player, he's missing games, his game speed's off, no matter how great he is, right?
Agreed.
So you load manage by minutes, you don't load management by games. So any organization that is load managing by games have a bunch of fucking morons running their organization.
Well, that's what Golden State was doing, and that was one of the biggest arguments. I saw this numerous times last year.
Yeah,
Golden State would go out, and you got fans who were buying tickets, and okay, maybe I don't see Clay tonight, or maybe I don't see Steph, but I'll see Clay. They were sitting all 3 guys. They were sitting Clay, Draymond, and Steph in games last year.
And it didn't work out for them in the long run, right? It didn't work out for the load management in the long run where Denver's playing all the time, right?
No,
or other teams.
Fans are like, I'm paying the same amount of money for somebody to get to see them. I buy my tickets ahead of time, and they're doing it on the road. Like, maybe that's the only game my kid gets to go see, and you're sitting all of your star players.
Yeah,
and you're giving me the taxi squad. Like, come on, man. Like,
No, it's a joke. And this is why, like I said, you do it by minutes because you want players getting live game reps, right?
Yes.
So if a guy, you don't got to play a guy 37, 38 every night.
Which is why we're talking about what Joel's doing right now, right? He's playing 7 games, but he's playing 30 minutes a night instead of playing 44.
Tonight he amped up and played like 37 or 38, rightfully so. But then you go back to the games of, 28, 30, maybe a night with 25. You just get him his reps and you get him his work in, right? Like,
right.
You don't got to sit a guy. Now, if a guy has a little lingering thing, then okay, right? Then of course. But in reality, you don't want guys not playing because then that hurts what you're building.
Yes.
Right? That's the biggest key of it. So if it's 82 games, 162, 162 is a little different when it comes to baseball, right?
Right.
You're going to have guys take days off. You're going to have guys who never take days off. So, one of the best players ever never took a day off. So the day off shit to me is a cop-out, right? Play the game, right? That doesn't mean you can't miss 5-10 games in a year. You know what I mean? Like that happens. Like you miss 5 games, you miss 10 games for little things, right? I get it. You might not want to play a guy on a back-to-back once in a while. All right, that's not going to kill you. But if you're missing 20, 25 games, that's a joke. That's where I draw the line. You missed 5 or 10.
Too many players that were doing that.
Yeah, you missed 5 or 10. I'm not going to sit here and break balls about that. You know what I mean?
It was players who were getting load managed that didn't even have a chance to win a title on teams. That's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just bring these guys back out of nowhere and you expect your team to be good.
Exactly.
All right, we'll bring them back for the last 20 games, and now we're going to ramp up. Get the fuck out of here. Then you don't understand sports.
And that's where the NBA, and that was the thing with the NBA, was because, to your point, Tom, the NBA markets their superstars better than any sport, including the NFL. They have always found a way to recognize their superstars and market them. And this was the first time over the last couple of years when you have the old players coming out and going after the current players and the fans saying, what the hell? They're going after all the star players in the league who are sitting games out. It's the first time they really faced that kind of adversity to where people are now questioning the faces of your league because these guys are not getting out there for more than 60, 65 games in a season, which is egregious to me in an 82-game year that you can't play 70 games. Like every player, in my opinion, barring injury, should be able to get out there and play 70 to 75 games easy. And if you're not conditioning yourself to do that, there's a problem. That's a problem with you. Because the history of the league, everybody's been out there to get out there and be able to play 70, 75 games. Now, all of a sudden, well, this is where the advanced metrics come in, Tom. Right? Pitchers can't throw more than 80 pitches anymore. Guys can't go beyond 4 or 5 or 6 innings. And this is where I think it can hurt the game because you take out, you take away some of the logic and the eye test, right? Hey, he looked great last night. His legs were under him. He seemed like he was fine. I think he's good to play for Tuesday night. But no, we're going to sit him just to be safe.
Right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Guys should play. I've never been an advocate of resting guys. You got guys in the NFL to play a brutal schedule, a beat up schedule. So, there's no, that's where the guaranteed money comes in, and that's where some of that stuff comes in. And this is where they need to add on these types of events.
Big fan of it. Big fan of it.
I'm a fan of anything that gets people to play and compete. I don't like to have to do it, right? And the NBA probably is like, okay, Jesus God, dude, you're making us go do this. People are going to laugh at us, right? People are going to say, what is this? What is this? But at the end of the day, the players playing is competitive. You draw an audience, right? And that's all that matters at the end of the day is your ratings high? Are people watching it? And are your stars playing? Because if your stars are playing and it's competitive, people are going to watch it. So, boys, this has been fun, though. To talk some Sixers this early, especially after a big Eagles win. But we get a bye, and next Wednesday we'll be back in talking Chiefs, Eagles, revenge tour. So that'll be fun. What up, SJM? What's up, brother? Everything looks sharp. You're right. So
revenge season.
A lot of great comments in here too, guys. Appreciate your comments. Make sure you're liking, subscribe, and follow, and keep them coming every week, every night, every show.
And if you listen on audio only, make sure when you get there on the Apple Podcast, wherever you're at, scroll down a little bit, see the little stars, hit about 3 or 4 of them, preferably 5.
Yeah, we love a 5 piece.
Goes on. Because I think there's a lot of people out here, we see in the chat, you love us, but it's a lot of people out here who probably can use us in their lives, and they just don't know we exist. So do your part, like, share, subscribe, give us a rating, feed us to those people, and then there'll be more. Family gets bigger. We appreciate
it, baby. That's it. This was A2D Wednesday nights. We had a great fucking fun show. Let's go. We were brought to you by Royal Billiard. We talk about how they're the premier game room store at Delaware Valley. They're stocked with everything. All right, shuffleboards, card tables, dart supplies, bars, bar stools, pool tables, you name it. So go check them out. They got hot tubs too. 515 Bethlehem Pike, Colmar, PA, or visit them right on the web, royalbilliard.com. For Chrome, Pete, I'm Tom. Ryan was with us. We'll see you all next week. Go Sixers right now. Hey, Flyers mixing one.